You can get whatever you want in life, just not whenever you want it. Delay gratification. That's a quote by Alex Hormozy, and I think for the topic of today's episode, it's quite fitting. You know, they always say, like, so-called successful people, they always say that your ability to delay gratification is a direct indication of how likely you are to achieve a goal or ambition of yours. How long you're gonna wait to achieve that thing, what you're willing to sacrifice, what you're willing to put in, is a very likely indicator of how likely you are to achieve your goal, ambition, or anything like that. The more you give up along the way, the more you stand to gain. I think back to this Casey Neistat video I saw once. By the way, Casey Neistat, what a filmmaker, what a YouTuber. But anyway, that's completely off topic. Casey Neistat, almost 10 years ago, he made this video called Follow Your Dreams. And it's exactly what you think the video is about. It's about what following your dream actually means. And he goes on to talk about the dark, the ugly side that no one actually talks about. The video goes a little something like this. So he initially starts off the video by talking about how you can get anything you want in life. You can achieve anything you want in life. But you just can't achieve everything. You can achieve anything, but you just can't have it all. And then he goes on to share this incredible story about a heavy metal band called Anvil. And I want to share the story with you right now. But before I do that, I'm going to need a favor from you. If you're in an environment right now where you think you could be distracted, please click off the video and come back at another time. I genuinely think this story is of value and is of use, and you could get some actual meaningful insight from it. So I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't think this story didn't hold any value. So if you're in an environment where you could get distracted, please click off the video and come back another time. But if not, stay tuned. Listen in. So the story of Anvil goes a little something like this. Anvil were a heavy metal band formed in the late 70s by 4 people. They had a lead singer, a drummer, a rhythm guitarist, and a bassist. 4 people. And around the 80s, they were actually kind of big, kind of popular. People knew of them. You know, they were the opening acts for some of the biggest shows around, but that's all they ever were. They were just the opening act. They never really made it mainstream. No one really knew who they were. They were always just the warm-up acts for the bigger acts that were to come. And eventually that wore off. Eventually that little bout of success they had, it wore off and it tapered down. And people slowly and truly started to forget who they were. In fact, it didn't take long for one of the band members to leave. I think it was the rhythm guitarist. As the hype slowly died down and they became less and less famous, I think it was the rhythm guitarist who was the first to leave in the 80s. He just didn't see the vision, he didn't see the long-term goal, he didn't see the project, and he cut. Oh, but there's 3 of them now. It's fine. It's fine. Oh no, but the bassist also left in the 90s. Anvil went from being sort of semi-famous to now a bunch of nobodies. Nobody knew who they were failing. Luck just didn't go their way. And it was now the 2 of them. 2 out of the original 4 of the roster who started out. It was only the lead singer and the drummer who remained. And over the years where they slowly died down and stuff, they would do these little day jobs. They would just do a bunch of minimum wage day jobs to fund their actual dream of becoming rock stars and traveling the world and stuff. You know, I think it was the lead singer of Anvil. He had this really menial minimum wage job where he'd deliver food to school cafeterias. And then whenever he could, he would get these odd jobs where he'd be playing in like bars and stuff, and just anywhere that I'd allow him to play. They were grinding in the dark while nobody knew who they were. And it was like this for so damn long. so long. No matter how hard they tried, they never gave up on the dream. They never did. And one day in 2008, an old Anvil roadie, for those who don't know what a roadie is, they're basically a bunch of, I think it's super fans, who help set up concerts and events for the main band itself. So he was a guy, so they ran into an old roadie who would, back in the 80s, would help Anvil set up their old concerts and stuff, help take stuff, bring stuff up, take stuff down. So they ran into an old roadie, and this roadie, by the time they met him in like the later 2000s, he had turned into a Hollywood writer. I think, if I remember correctly, he wrote The Terminal. So he was a pretty big time writer. He knew what he was doing. So Anvil, they ran into him, and this old roadie, he was so damn shocked. He was amazed to find that these two guys were still going at it. They were still pursuing the dream, despite everyone telling them no, despite everyone telling them to quit, despite two of their original band members actually quitting. The drummer and the singer was still going at it after so many years. And this roadie, this former roadie, he found that just so inspiring, so amazing, that he decided to create a whole damn documentary on them. A documentary about resilience, hard work, unwavering determination. The documentary aired in 2008. And now with most documentaries, it's not like they get famous just like that. But this documentary was different. It struck an emotional chord with basically everyone who saw it. And it was one of the most highest rated documentaries released at the time. I think it got something like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Or tomatoes, whatever you want to call it. But it was a hit. It did amazingly. And the documentary alone gave Anvil the fame that they so desperately wanted. People wanted to hear their songs. And pretty soon after, Anvil, they just booked a world tour. From barely being able to get a gig at a bar, they had just booked a whole damn world tour. And it's because luck actually, it came their way for once. They actually fell into a bit of luck. And the overall outcome was many people saw Anvil for who they truly were, for who they always were. And now Anvil has looked at his story, a key case study of what true great hard work and unwavering, relentless determination looks like. And it's amazing to see that at 60, they were able to finally live out the dream. And what Casey then went on to say was, a lot of people talk about, the glamour side of following your dreams. How you can do whatever you want in life. You don't have to fit in and conform. But the people behind Anvil, everyone told them to give up. Everyone told them to quit. But they didn't. And it's just about how bad, just truly how bad you want it. That relentless, unwavering determination is a true indicator of how likely you are to achieve that goal. How long you're able to delay your current satisfaction, your current pleasure for your goal is a very, very strong indicator of how likely you are to achieve your ambition, to achieve your dream. And that's what Casey talks about in the whole video. And that's what delayed gratification is all about. Delayed gratification is giving up giving up your current, present satisfaction and pleasure and happiness, all for something that will come later on down the line. As of now, I want to explain a study I found while researching what to actually include for this pod, and it's called the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment, which was conducted in 1972. It goes a little something like this. In 1972, there were these scientists at Stanford who were interested in how children's ability to delay gratification at a young age would affect them later on down the line. So they gave the children two choices. One choice was that they could get one marshmallow right now. The second choice was that they could wait 15 minutes and get two marshmallows. And what they found was the children that had EP2 marshmallows 15 minutes later, they generally tended to have better life outcomes, like higher SAT scores, better BMIs. They were more emotionally regulated. Whereas the people who got one marshmallow just instantly, they generally didn't receive the better life outcomes that the other group did. And the findings from this experiment showed that the better you can imagine that delayed gratification, the higher quality of life you'll probably have. Let me say that again. The better you can imagine that delayed gratification, the higher quality of life you will probably have. They found that the children's ability at a young age to delay gratification was also dependent on their socioeconomic status, how much money their family had. If they came from a family that generally tended to have more money, kids saw the value later on down the line. They saw the value in waiting that extra 15 minutes for the extra marshmallow they'd receive. And this study just gets me thinking that most people who've achieved a certain level of success that is desirable by the general public, they have this powerful ability to delay gratification when they see no results. And this has been shown time after time. And it's not just anecdotally, but as we've talked about now, it's been shown empirically. And not just empirically, but religiously as well. I mean, many of the world's major religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Sikhism, they all preach delayed gratification. And for everything we've been talking about now, that it's pretty much the exact reason why. It's delayed gratification. It's the value of practicing it improves your quality of life. It improves the outcomes. It gives you better life outcomes. You know, in a world that tells us that we should get everything instantly and be infuriated when we don't, it's getting harder and harder to practice delayed gratification. So the main takeaway from this episode is, if you have a goal or an ambition, the shortest way to get there is by taking the long route, by playing the long game. Stop trying to take shortcuts. Anything worth doing, anything great, will always take time to build. Expecting fast progress only leads you to being discouraged when the going gets tough. So you might as well play the long game. And like Casey Neistat said, if you can do that, you might as well follow your dreams. By the way, watch that video. Watch that video from Casey Neistat if you made it this far. And also, if you made it this far, thank you. Well and truly, thank you very, very much. I appreciate you. It's not easy to watch these long form kind of videos for the attention span and stuff. Like, I know I'd certainly struggle to watch them. But thank you so much. I mean it. Bless your soul. See you in the next episode. Have a good one.